I feel the space, the light, the color, the form, and the scene simultaneously. I'm not thinking, I'm sensing the street.
Read the street in front of you, and the picture will present itself.
Hey, welcome to the Street Shots Photography Podcast. This is Antonio.
And this is Ward.
And this is episode, what are we at? 211.
211, yeah.
211. That sounds like a police code. We got a 211 in progress. It is, isn't it?
It is. A 211 isn't that, that's a burglary in progress and for LAPD, isn't it?
I don't know.
211 in progress.
I'd Google it now, but I don't want to just, well, episode 211. I know, this sounds so familiar now. I'm saying we have a 211 in progress. Yes, this is episode 211 in progress for the middle of July 2024.
We got old TV on the brain, my friend. We got old TV
It's been watching too much Adam 12, right?
That's right.
What was it? Was it called Adam 12?
Yeah, one Adam 12. See the man.
Adam 12. Yeah, now I need to look up what police. Okay, now I got to look it up. Police 211. Sorry. And we got into this. 211 is a police dispatch code that indicates a potential robbery in progress. Very good. Dispatchers use this code to inform patrol units that a robbery has been reported in a specific location. So, yes, don't anybody turn your volume up too high. This is not a robbery in progress. The only thing we're going to be robbing is your time. Right, I guess, for the next however
which
long.
you'll be giving willingly, we hope.
Yes, willingly. And this is, again, not scripted. This is happening live.
That is terrifying. Yeah.
Yeah, and we might sound a little different because we're earlier in the day today that we're recording.
Right.
I don't know if you can tell the difference. Maybe in just our demeanor in terms of like we're not exhausted and or
not exhausted yet. Yeah.
Yeah, not exhausted yet. How you doing over there?
I'm doing really well.
Yeah,
I've been busy working at the Calgary Stampede, which I was telling you about. So we'll talk about
that.
Yeah. How about you, my friend? What's up with you?
Not much. It's been kind of slow. I do have a class tomorrow, which is tomorrow will be Friday. We're recording this Thursday. Tomorrow is Friday. I got a class at the library. It's actually the first time I'm teaching. It's funny. I need to change the names. Intro to Digital Photography. And the only reason I haven't changed the name yet because it's kind of the sort of the running name that I've got for all my classes. And I didn't name the class initially that way, but it's the first time I'm teaching this specific class at the library, through the library, not through Brick or anything like that. I was thinking about that. Like someone was saying, isn't digital photography redundant? And like I actually joke about that during my presentation. And I thought if it was just saying introduction to photography, I was wondering if like people who are just beginning might not think that it was like, well, I don't have like maybe they think it's a film photography class or something like that. And like adding the digital photography makes it, it's a class for beginners, and so it makes it more inviting or something. I don't know. What do you think?
It's not a history lesson starting in 1834 in France. Like, oh no, what have I walked myself into? No, I'm photography. I think digital photography is fun because then you can imagine yourself with a phone or your new Sony or whatever.
Yeah. And, although I do. Oh, you know what? I didn't put this in the description. Maybe I did put it in the description. That it's not for smartphone photographers though.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah, just because half the class I spend, or a big chunk of the class, I talk about the relationship with shutter and aperture, and and I think that's in the description of the class because that to me is important. And like once I start giving that information out about like those relationships between the light and the creativity, like shutter speed and aperture deal with light, but they also deal with your creative process. But I don't, if someone doesn't have a camera, I don't say get out.
Yeah.
I was like, when you're ready to get a camera that's not a smartphone camera, this stuff will help you. So so I got that tomorrow, and I was retooling my slideshow a little bit for this, because this is not a workshop. I'm teaching you photography,
right.
And so there's a lot of slides and a lot of photographs, like, and explanations. So that's, it can get a little dull, but I try to put a break in the middle there so they're not falling asleep too much. And I don't know. I'm looking forward to it. Although the library that I'm working in, I know the room that I'm in, they've got one of those giant projectors on the ceiling.
Yeah.
It's like the size of like an ottoman stuck up there.
Right.
And I don't mean from, the Turkish Empire.
No, from a thing you put your feet on when you're sitting on the couch.
Feet on, not like some guy in a, old time outfit hanging it and showing slides.
Yeah.
That would be actually kind of a funny joke. Anyway, doesn't matter. I don't know, I lost my train of thought. Oh yeah, but the library is not, that room, even though it's got tall ceilings, it's not air conditioned very well. So I'm like gonna do a dance tonight to hope that the gods of humidity don't appear tomorrow, because that room gets really hot with that projector.
Right.
And then everybody gets kind of sleepy and stuff like that. So anyway, I'm looking forward to it. It's the digital photography class, and I've thrown in some history. I do throw in a little bit of history.
Yeah. Because
it's one of the things I tell them is that, if you want to, one of the best ways to improve your own photography is to look at other photographers. So I just do a little bit of that because, we could do a whole class on that, but I had to throw that in. But today I was retooling the slideshow to talk about sensor sizes, and that can get a little geeky. But I did record an advertisement from B&H that was on YouTube, and it popped up. I don't know. I saw it like a couple of weeks ago, and I was like, "Oh, that would be such a great, like 4-minute video."
Yeah.
To play for the thing, and I was like, well, how am I going to record it? I couldn't. And then finally, it popped up when I was on my computer. It popped up on my YouTube.
Oh, cool. It's a discussion of sensor sizes. Is it? Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like the guy's talking about the 4 sensor sizes, the medium format, medium format, full frame, and like what for. And I thought it's a nice, concise little thing about sensor sizes. So I thought, oh, that might, throw in a video for 4 minutes, and it's an ad for B&H. So I don't think they'll care too much because there's the B&H logo at the bottom of it. Anyway, cool. So that's a sort of long-winded way of saying that's what I was doing. I have not been shooting that much lately, strangely enough.
I've been shooting a lot, like really a lot.
Well, since I'm not shooting and you are, let's go into that a little bit. I mean, just to go for a side, not that I'm in any kind of mood or something like that. I've been actually spending more time writing.
Well,
and writing
takes
up
act.
More time. It is a creative act. I'm not like thinking something's wrong with photography. I mean, I got my camera sort of lying around, and every now and then I pick one up and take a couple of shots of something. But I'm not going out and actively shooting. It's just that doesn't sound right. Actively shooting.
The
I'm
active
not actively
shooter.
going out. Yeah, I know. You have to.
Yeah, we can't.
I'm trying to watch out for those terms. I don't really like them anymore. Why? What's up?
Oh,
we got somebody here who wants to say hi on camera. There we go. He's gonna talk. Well, actually, if he's up here, he's not gonna talk. This is Opie, by the way. You might have heard him in the background. But he's gonna hang out with me because we're very low key here. Anyway, so yeah, no, I haven't really taken my camera out for a walk or something like that. So let's hear about your experiences with walking. I mean, we were talking about that last time, right?
Yeah.
You had already gone, or you were about to go?
I think,
it was 2 weeks ago.
It was 2 weeks ago. So before we had talked about the Hand Hills Lake Stampede, which was that rural stampede that I had.
You were about to go, right? With your new cameras, right? No.
Yeah,
no,
we came back. We were talking about my
back,
experiences, coming back, whatever. And that was all.
Yeah.
That was 2 episodes ago. And so this week is they call it the Mardi Gras for cowboys, the Calgary Stampede, which is 10 days of, it's like a big state fair and rodeo. And there's a big midway fun fair, it's basically the parking lot for the rink for the NHL team here. So it's this huge area.
Are you going there tonight?
Yes.
Yes.
I've been every night since, every night except this past Saturday when we went over to our neighbors to visit because they're going to whatever, they're going on a family trip later on this summer. Thought it'd be our last time to visit with them before they left. Anyway, so this was, sorry, I got to finish my sentences.
I was waiting for you to even describe what you guys were eating and what you did. I was like, oh, let's go on that path for a little while.
No. We'll cut that out, dear listener. We'll just carve that out.
No, they get to hear everything we say.
So
anyway, go ahead.
So I work during the day. Thankfully I get to finish work at 3 in the afternoon, and so I can come home, maybe have a shower, take the dog for a walk, and then by about dinner time, 5 or 6 p.m., I'm back down on the Midway. Now on my chest I have my X-E3, which is my street workhorse, which you saw me work with in New York, and then the other was the new X-S20. And I put the 23 millimeter on the X-E3 and the 50 millimeter on the X-S20. I ran into some acquaintances every now and then, and you always do when you're down there so often, and you've got friends in the photography community. I use the 23 millimeter for trolling, and I use the 50 millimeter for big game hunting. So there's two different modes. So if I wanted something really composed, of a person that's a little bit further away, kind of more portraity, then I'd use the 50. And if I just wanted to get at the groups of people as they're walking toward me and in large groups, and I just wanted to get interesting, fleeting gestures and arrangements of people, then I'd use the 23. So that's what I've been doing every night, and it's a lot of fun.
So you're now, I mean, you were doing street photography the last time we talked about this. You said you had a Canon camera and you did street photography with it. Was that true?
I had done the very first street photography I was doing was with my iPhone 4. Okay. And Canon, it was a Canon S100. It was like one of those little tiny portable elf, whatever you want to call them.
Tiny and then ones. You had the Fuji, eventually you had a Fuji
X20, which I think I got in 2015, 2014, yeah.
So what's it like doing, I mean, you're using the 50 millimeter on this new Success 20.
It's circular. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a different process.
Yeah, it's much more considered. I stand still, lining up. I see an interesting group of people in a certain way, and they're reacting, and I know that they won't notice me standing there pointing the camera at them. Where with the 23, if I kind of stopped where I was, with a wider group, I would definitely more or less be noticed. Here I'm standing a little bit further away. While the people are playing whack-a-mole, I can be at one end and shooting across down at them while they're playing their game, and I wouldn't be noticed.
You're not using the little flip-out screen on that?
Not at all. No.
How come?
Well, I'm using the viewfinder for those. I'm looking through the camera for those, so those are not shoot from the hip. No, I'm fine with lining it up.
Well, yeah, all right.
It's fine. I mean, it's all right. It works.
Well, no, I was thinking like that, the advantage of that kind of, system with a flip out screen is that you can be a little more discreet about taking pictures. You're not looking through, but then it's at your waist.
Yeah. And
waist level finder.
And then if I'm then I'm already sort of doing that, but I'm just not looking at the viewfinder when I'm shooting from the hip on the 23. It hadn't really occurred to me, to use the camera like a twin lens. And with the Success 20, I don't know if I get into it.
That's pretty cool,
It flips out, and I've got the camera strap coming down. And so it's not like the tip out, like, on an X Pro 3 or whatever, where you can kind of tip it out and point it straight up.
Yeah,
here it's off to the side of the camera. And that way the camera's more for video, right? For that sort of thing.
Yeah. I mean, I when you were in town and we were walking down the streets, I used that camera or the XH2S or whatever, which is the same body. Yeah. But I use that flip out screen. But it is kind of awkward in a fast moving situation like street photography. I also feel like it's going to break off, because it kind of feels flimsy and stuff like that. So yeah, for video, it's good for, or like, doing low angle shots or high angle shots. So, anyway, so.
But I have the screen flipped in, like I don't even have the touch. So
you don't see it at all.
I don't see it, and I adjusted the menus and everything looking through the viewfinder. So I treat it like
you're using it like a real camera.
I'm using it like a real camera, and it's still a great novelty.
Yeah.
So
what's the experience you want to share about this?
Well, there are a few things. We're using the new gear, getting into it. Finding a new headspace. Like I've been doing shooting down at the Stampede probably now for 10 years, working at least 5 or 6 days of the 10 there. And I'm there for 4 or 5 hours at a time, usually in the evening, like after work and through the dinner hour. Either tomorrow or Saturday I'll work late, and then or maybe both nights I'll work late so that I can do some street at night. I'm looking forward to using the X-S20 for that.
And sorry, you do this during school days too? I mean, like, I guess tonight is school night. I mean,
well, I work, like I say, I work until 3, and then I can come home, clean up, whatever, and then get on the train and go down there. Yeah, I go to work tomorrow. Yeah, but tomorrow's Friday. Okay. I sleep in Saturday. It's fine. It's all good.
Okay, all right.
All right. So I mean, the continuation of this work, it seems like kind of like a life's a thing I have to do. So I'll do with a little bit less sleep, and I show some of my coworkers the work that I'm doing, and they like what I'm doing, so they'll forgive me if I'm a little groggy at the morning meeting. So I'm trying to work all the angles here. So I put a lot of miles on the shoes, and do a lot of shooting. It's primarily, it's people. There isn't too much architecture, although we have a new convention center on the grounds there, which is quite nice. But it's just walking up and down that 3/4 of a mile from one end of the grounds to the other, and up one pathway through where all the carnies are and everything, and back down through where the rides are, and watching for the light and looking for interesting people, and trying not to get into any ruts of, I'm just going to take pictures of tall people, or I'm just going to take pictures of tourists or whatever. Or
do you
kids.
Do that? Do you
well,
do you
sometimes
ever lock yourself into something?
Well, I'm like, take a picture of. Well, no, not really. I'm trying to get myself out of that. I'm trying to be as democratic as I can, trying to shoot everybody. And every now and then there are moments where there's, the last couple of years, there are these really earnest young couples who are in love or in crisis or something. It's very dramatic. And so I try and capture that. And yesterday yesterday or the day before, I got a picture of a child with his presumably grandmother consoling her. That was quite a heartfelt kind of.
The kid was consoling the grandmother?
Yeah, had his arm around his grandmother. And his grandmother's head was, face was in his chest. So I don't know about what went on there, but it was just, and there are millions and millions of moments like that in an event like that. And they set a record actually. On Sunday, I think the 201,000 people went in through there. So it was the busiest, although I didn't really feel that it was the busiest day that I can remember there, but it was quite a crush of people. And it's interesting for me, so many people go there and they kind of dread it because it's going to be hot. We had some really hot weather here. Yesterday was 100 degrees Fahrenheit down there. Oof. But, 15% humidity. So, it's a hot, but it's a dry heat. You know what they say. So there are people that go down there kind of, and some families you can tell dad is just dreading. Now we have to get in line for this. We have to get in line for that. And there's all these kind of emotions, and the little ones are hot and they're tired and they're crying. And there's all of this kind of human drama going on of these people. Like, when can we get out of here? Okay. We got to do all these things, check off all these boxes and whatever. And the crush of people. And for me, I want to be there. I'm there to capture all this. And I am relaxed and I am wide-eyed and watching all the stuff that's going on. And just to see how we're all there for different reasons. And how for me, it feels like I should be there, like I'm documenting something. I don't know. And then being encouraged by the results and so on kind of feeds on itself. And I like the whole process.
Sorry, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No, that's fine.
When you're saying that, it reminds me of going to Times Square in the city. I mean, Times Square is an easy target for making fun of and it being overcrowded and the sort of the same kind of discussion that you're having. There's too many people. They're all sort of wandering around. Yeah, there are the impatient parents who want to get away from the people who are dressed up like, Batman and like a Muppet or something like that.
Yeah.
And then, going there as like if I'm going to do photography, which I haven't done that much, but I have gone to Times Square occasionally, walk through with my camera knowing like, okay, I'm going to be here and I'm going to photograph. It is a completely different experience. And I can deal with it. Like I can deal with the crowds and the smell and the nonsense because, basically I'm there just to...
You don't have to be there. You want to be there.
Right. Well, yeah. And I mean, I'm assuming that the people who are there want to be there too. They just don't like it.
Yeah.
You don't wander into Times Square because you're trying to get someplace. It's not it's like a place, it's a destination.
Yeah.
So I do think people go there because they want to. They just, when they, I'm speaking, I can't speak so generalized. I'm sure people like it there because it's so light, it's so crazy there. But that idea of being someplace and putting yourself in that situation really just does change your mindset. And you, like you're saying, you put miles on your shoes, you can do that very easily, or spend hours in some place and like, oh, what did I just do? I spent hours in Times Square, someone says, I can't stand Times Square. I was like, well, I can when I've got my camera, it's just, it's interesting because you're in the same place, the same, you maybe different mindsets, you were saying, you said something about headspace before. When you said that, I thought that's an interesting way to.
It was in reference to the new camera, right? That I've got another opportunity. So you're doing this thing year after year. It's, you could say you could struggle to keep it fresh. I suppose that's true. If you get in a rut when you're shooting and you're just shooting a certain way all the time, you got to make yourself aware that you should maybe look for something else. And at those moments where I kind of fatigued from looking and looking and looking, then I'll go, get a snack or a beverage or something and just sit for a few minutes and then pick up and go again.
Are you saying that like if you get in that kind of rut, you can challenge yourself by in this sense maybe having a different type of piece of gear that you're not used to?
Well, it was the opportunity was there to go, okay, so if I'm in a rut, let's use a 50 a little more and with a new camera,
right,
and start pointing it.
That's a challenge though.
Yeah.
I mean, well, not for you. You've done this before, right?
Yeah, but I mean, I still have to get spun up, right? I still have to think of, okay, now I'm not just walking through the crowds with grab shots and looking for those young couples that are in trouble or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm like, now I got to look for compositions that are already there, and I've got to be in the right place and look more critically at the light, and it's a more considered way to shoot.
As you're saying this, I'm remembering like on purpose going out with I can't remember what camera I had, but I put a 75 millimeter lens on. So on our Fuji, that's what, 110 millimeter?
Yeah, roughly? It's getting long.
So it's like a 105. And 105 to do street photography is thinking in the terms of like a saw lighter or any of those photographers who go out and do street photography with a slightly telephoto lens, which is a bit of a challenge.
Absolutely.
And the frustration I have with the first time I did that, I mean, I was kind of happy with the shots that I got, but there was a definite like frustration, and then even like, I'm not doing this today, I put the camera away or something like that. And it reminds me of, and then going back maybe to my 23 millimeter, right? Because I'm so used to, and there was was it a meme or a cartoon? I can't remember. And it's like, there's a guy standing in front of 3 doors, right? And the first door says, movies I haven't seen. The second door was movies my friends have recommended. The third says movies I've seen, over 30 times. And the next panel is him kicking the third door open, right? Like, and I'm thinking like, you got a new piece of gear and it's really frustrating. And like, you know what? I'm going to go back home to my regular piece of gear and do what I know. But there's this big, there's this idea of challenging and sticking with it. And often you can get really cool results. Hold on. Opie, you cannot. Sorry, my cat is walking on my papers here, and he's being a pain. I've invited him in so that he doesn't scream.
Yeah. Well, I would say what you had just said, I'm thankful, lucky that I have time. I have 10 days, so there's some things that I haven't done.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what was this, day 6 or day 7, day whatever, and it's 10 days. So I will do the stuff that's easiest to do early on in the week to get my kind of vision up and my abilities kind of up. And then I'll do the harder stuff later on in the week. So I won't feel bad about or have any misgivings about leaving behind what I've been doing during the week that I've had some success at. Right. So the 2 things I'm going to be doing, shooting at night, which will be probably tomorrow night and or Saturday night, and then shooting with the 16, which is on the third body because I have 3 bodies with me. And so
that's going to be interesting.
The night and the 16 go well together. And
so we're working at what, a 24?
24, yeah.
That's a challenge. Well, I'll say a challenge. You generally shoot with that?
No, not generally. Just I wait. Okay. It's the hardest to do, so I'll wait till later in the week. So I did have some success with it, shooting the facades on the carnival, on the rides, and on the vendors, like the food vendors and so on. The way their signs are lit up, it's just very basic static subjects. So I was happy with that, and last year, and I didn't really pursue it much further. This year, it's sort of I'm going to try and make it a little bit more interesting and include more people and do something a little more dynamic. What exactly that's going to look like, we'll have to discover. But it'll be less streety. Like the pictures will be less street and more like environmental kind of travel kind of thing.
Do you have at any point you're going to do something with all these pictures other than just put them on Instagram? I mean, at this point you've been doing it so long.
Yeah, I mean,
you're probably going to keep doing it. But
I'm going to probably keep doing it. Yeah, I mean, the point is that because it's such a long-running thing, I'm sure I will do something with it, with them. I had Gary Winogrand on the brain. I don't know why, but anyways, I have started, and we're talking about biases when I'm taking pictures. And one of the things is getting pictures when they're sitting in a row, like on a bench. And I've got probably 12 of those already of people lined up on a bench with their, and what I'm most appealing, and we're getting into composition, but what appeals to me the most is the directions their feet are pointed. Each person has a different way they point their feet, or the way their feet rest on the pavement, right? And
that's interesting. Wow.
You know, if you look at the Winogrand picture, that's the World's Fair 1964, that picture of his, where that's the most splendid example of how everyone's legs are configured. It's all different. And so it's the same. It's the same when I take these groups of people. I mean, I want to make sure that their faces are in focus, which is great. But it's like she's sitting and her feet are together and they're pointing this way, and the guy's sitting here and his heels are together, and that's weird. And then the kid's sitting here and he's got his he's rolled over on his ankles on opposites, and it's like it's all crazy. And so that
is something I would have never noticed. I mean, well.
But anyway, it's just a little bit of, whatever you want to call it, a little bit of joy I get out of shooting those kinds of compositions, their personalities are represented and how they put their feet on the ground.
That's great.
And it's true. It's sort of like where they are in that state. Well, this person is clearly bored. This person is, feet are flat and pointed straight ahead. They're a little bit more goal oriented, or they want to get out of there, or whatever it is. And it's just a fun detail. And it's a thing that you can observe in life that doesn't have a lot of high stakes. You're just creating these things, discovering them, and then when they're revealed in the images, they give you a little kick. So anyway, I mean, I could, in terms of a personal project, I could just do, and I think someone had made a comment on, I think it was Facebook, and I said, I got enough bench pictures. I mean, through my whole last few years, I could maybe do a little book or a zine just on people sitting on benches.
So what are you waiting for?
I don't know. Maybe I should do it. Just call it bench, and then have it.
Oh, that's a great idea.
So I'll do that.
Actually, all right. But I've done a lot of that on Ocean Parkway too.
I have a picture of two ladies with a dog on Ocean Parkway.
Yeah, that's kind of how I got started with going into full street photography mode. Was walking up and down Ocean Parkway, photographing people sitting on benches. In fact, I got a shot which I haven't processed yet from this morning because I'm coming home from coffee, and there's two people as a Hasidic couple on the benches, and I was like, "Ooh, they have character." And so I walked by, but I didn't have my camera with me. I just used my phone, and I actually like those kind of pictures. So all right.
So this project's going to go on. I'll probably work right through till Sunday, and I'm posting most of the hits up on Instagram. I don't mind sharing them. I'm not. It's part of my process right now to share pretty much everything that works out. I'm not a hoarder that way. I know there's some photographers that want to keep all the best to themselves so they can think about and rethink their processing. So I don't mind rethinking my processing in public. I don't care. I'm not precious about that. Yeah. All right. And if a book comes out of it, or a zine, maybe a zine, I could bang one together probably sooner than later.
Sounds like zine material to me. So
yeah, I'll do it.
All right.
I think I'll do it. Anyway, it's fun, getting lots of exercise. Things are good. So,
can we segue into there's a dovetail into kind of what I want to talk about?
What I was going to say, and this is my hackneyed segue now, is what I really loved about doing the Stampede Heads project is I like everything about it, the process, not just shooting, but also the doing of it, of the walking around and seeing, visualizing, shooting, getting home, uploading the pictures, and as soon as the upload is finished into Lightroom, I am in there editing. So do we have more to talk about on that?
Well, in relationship to that, I mean, I didn't think I'd have anything to talk about today, but after having a bit of a chat with my friend this morning, Gino, and he was just relaying an experience he was having gone to a sort of a hired shoot in New Mexico, tagging along with another class. Hold on, Opie, you cannot play with that. Stop. He's going after my headphones. You can't play with that, buddy. So him being a seasoned professional, experienced photographer, and then being with other, students who are photographing a subject. And as he was describing it, okay, he's got to leave. Sorry. As he was describing it, I was thinking how the difference between I want to say professionals. It's not professional because it's not about doing with making money, but someone who's seasoned as a photographer and someone who's not seasoned, who's just getting into photography. And I'm around a lot of those people often because of the classes I teach. So I get to, and so is he. He teaches a lot as well. So we're amongst the people who are learning for the first time. Anyway, this idea that a photographer, someone experienced, can be at an event or a situation and both simultaneously experience the event and document it. And so what popped in my mind was I'm filming the concerts in Brooklyn during the summer every once in a while. It's called Celebrate Brooklyn. And I'm manning one of 3 cameras, right? And so I'm in a kind of a center camera position, and it's a concert, right? And so one would think that, like my friend, he asked me, like, you'll enjoy the concerts. And it made me think about it, like, yeah, actually I can enjoy the concerts and film them simultaneously. Maybe not at the highest level of enjoyment, because I have a job to do, right? So I have to record and have to listen to the director and blah, blah, blah. But I can listen to the music and I can see the fun, and I tuck some of that away. And then also when I was filming, I'm talking about video right now, but when I was filming a live television show also for Brick, and they would have people talking, maybe it was a really interesting discussion, I could listen to that discussion simultaneously with filming it, right? And listening to the director and stuff like that. And so, one's kind of muscle memory in a way, I think, and the other is, a different part of my brain is in there, like listening. So anyway, I was thinking about this idea of, like, as a experienced photographer, let's just talk about photography. You could be doing something like, in your case, this Stampede, walking around and enjoying the event of it, and also recording it in the way that you're recording it. Whereas someone who's not as experienced, who hasn't spent much time, is going to experience the entire event through their camera.
Right.
Now, does that make any sense?
Or struggling to use the camera while they're in the event?
Well, maybe not struggling to use it. If you're struggling to use it, then it's like, I think all bets are off. Then the whole experience is a frustration, because you're not experiencing the event or whatever you're trying to photograph, and you're fighting, like, understanding why your camera's doing certain things. So you're out of the whole situation.
Right.
Now, as I'm saying this to you, a thing that just popped in my mind was when I was doing stock photography. And this is obviously a while ago. And there was one time I went to a lot of places, but I remember when I went to Germany and I was photographing, I think it was in Heidelberg. And there's this, I'm hoping that's the right city. There's this bridge there, this really old bridge. And I was photographing on one side of it. And then when I got home, eventually, I'm looking at the pictures, and we've talked about this before. Like, my memory of the experience was that photograph, because I was looking through the lens, and I'm thinking about that now, as I'm not a very seasoned travel photographer, so I'm also overwhelmed by the newness of this place. I've never been to Germany. I've never seen something like this before. I'm going to look through the camera. So my experience was narrowed down to looking through the viewfinder, right? Not all the time. I'm not going to say, like, I didn't have a good time and stuff like that. But when I was shooting, I was not paying attention to the history. Now, I'm sure. I'm not sure. Like, if I went to someplace new, I'd probably have that same experience. But like even for what you're talking about, you're going to this place for 10 days. Even if you were going to this for the first time, that first few days, you'd get it out of your system.
Yeah.
And then you would be like, okay, now I know what I have to do, right? And then you would settle into that flow state. I don't know if that's the right word to call it or something like that. So I'm thinking about what that. First of all, I don't know if there's a name for it. Now, flow state is kind of generic. I wouldn't want to say that. And I'm not sure, posing a question. I mean, we can hash this out a little bit, but maybe how does one go from experiencing a world through the lens only, or then eventually, being able to experience both at the same time. Am I making sense?
Let's see. I would think about this.
Yeah.
It's the act of seeing and practice seeing in the photographic context. So if I go back to the sports photography I've done, it helps to understand the sport that you're shooting. And so, You learn to anticipate what's going on. That's one thing.
Right.
And so
that's
you
the practical
prepare
part
yourself.
of it.
That's the practical part of it. And but the practical part, and when I'm shooting street, I have an idea. I have an idea what compositions will work very quickly in any given moment, like the picture that I want to take. I would say, oh, they're lined up the right way. I think I'll get this. I'll shoot this. And I'm both have confidence enough to want to take the picture, but reserve a little bit of humility for the possibility that it may not work. I won't be tripping over the fact that, this is just going to suck what I'm doing, right?
Right. I'm going to interrupt you.
Okay.
Because when you came to New York,
yeah,
it was a brand new experience for you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like you've never been there. And we talked about this before on the show. And the one walk we took, and I'm pointing out places. Like, oh, this is where I was.
Yeah.
And there's a part of you like saying, shut the front door. I want to take pictures. I get what you're talking about, but you're sort of skipping the part about like being in tune with, like, okay, you're unless I interrupted before you got to it. When you're talking about taking the pictures, I'm talking about like you're doing this thing that you know how to do, and can you experience, like, could you walk down the street with me, take pictures, and then also pay attention to like, oh, this is an important location. This is interesting him. Like it's a two mindset. Like when I thought you were in New York, you were doing kind of the same thing that I was doing when I was in Germany. I was like, maybe not.
Well,
but the way you're describing it is like you're
so
talking about it like, well, go ahead.
No, I was going to get there, and it was like, for me, get the practical part out of the way, so you don't have to worry about it, and you can move your energy up into the seeing part. Mm-hmm. And then the shooting part is you're less worried about that.
But you had to graduate to that. You didn't just drop into the space.
No, that's true.
With both. That's what I guess what I'm trying to say.
Right.
Is that, yes, certainly not that day. That day was, and I'm not, it doesn't bother me like that.
No, that's fine.
I just bring it up as it's a good example. I think it's a good example of this. Yeah, I mean, if you're going to some place for enough time, yeah, you get that sort of transition. I don't know if someone who's a beginner or someone who's just like, maybe someone who's not as experienced in, I don't know. I'm trying to come up with the perfect phrase, but I can't. Someone who's just getting behind the camera for the first time and say they know their equipment, but like I said, will experience whatever they are through the lens and not simultaneously through the lens and through their own body or through their own experience. So, if you were dropped in New York for one day, right?
Yeah.
You'd probably be on the be quiet, I want to take pictures.
Yeah, but maybe that's a part of my neurodiversity though too, right? I mean, I know my wife could do 3 things at the same time. She can quilt and barely look, or knit and barely look at what she's doing, watch TV, and talk about what we're going to have for dinner at the same time. I cannot do that.
I see.
But, I mean, I don't know. We're taking it off the rails.
No, that's interesting.
But I mean, some people have an easier time of it than others. I just like my experience of it. We use the Stampede as an example. My experience there or my intention is to get into a flow state so I can create these images at the back end. And I put aside a lot of any other things, personal comfort, whatever it is.
Yeah.
It got very warm this year. There's a whole bunch of different shades here. So
yeah. Maybe that's not a good example of it though.
Yeah,
because you've been going to the same place for years.
Yeah.
Again, using the example that I was talking with Gino this morning, it was a group of students who were going to see something for the first time, and then he was there, and I think it was what he was describing. It was another instructor hired a bunch of. He lives in New Mexico, so it was for the Santa Fe workshops, and another instructor hired some lowriders
Yeah.
for a photo shoot and brought the students with, and Gino went with them. And he approached the situation a lot differently. He was able to sort of step back. You know, as far as I can tell, he had never photographed like this. I mean, he's done portraits before, but he's mostly a landscape photographer. So this is unlike his usual style. And you know, he was able to watch the students photograph, and the way he was describing it, I was picturing, you know, this was sort of the exaggerated idea in my mind, but like people were just walking around with their cameras to their eyes and photographing what was there.
Right.
You know, and he was adjusting and moving around and maybe positioning people and getting them to pose. Like, you know, there was all this stuff going on. And that's what gave me like, he was kind of looking at it almost like a 10,000 foot level,
right.
and then being able to drop down when he needed to. Right. And the students, and they're students, fine. I mean, it's not a criticism, but it's such a narrow focus,
right.
or something,
yeah.
You know? So,
the understanding of what the potentials are of exercising creativity in a new context. Yeah.
Right. And you can, you know, mark it down to someone who you know, this is the first time they're doing this. So of course there's going to be this experience. And so is it a matter of time, like do this enough times? But if you've been doing this times as a photographer, you could be dropped into almost any situation. And again, I'm painting photographers with a broad brush, or experienced photographers, but you can, you know, a photographer who's been photographing for years could use a Diana camera, could be dropped in on a wedding and probably shoot it pretty good. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
There's all this kind of stuff that we can do. And I mean, obviously the way I'm describing it is like, yeah, well, it is an experience thing. The more things that you do, the more likely you're going to be able to drop into this. And, you know, how can you move? Well, I'm not sure I'm posing the right questions. I'm not sure where to go with this. It's something tangible that I can see happening. And I just don't think it's only about experience.
No, okay. So like you see these students, these people that are new to it. What are the observations they impart to you when they're shooting? What are they struggling with, or what are they telling you? Like maybe that'll give us some kind of idea.
Oh, that's a good question. That's a good question. What do they struggle with? Usually it's going out. Really, the only time I do photography like that is when I did my street photography class.
Yeah,
and actually, I do when they come back. I ask them what their challenges were. You know, I was like, "You went out for a half an hour. What kind of challenges do you come across?" And I'm just going to speak generically. A lot of the challenges are not. How do I describe it? It does feel very micro.
Okay. Yeah.
Like micro focused on something. And I'm not sure if this is making sense. You might have to coax me a little bit in this. Coach me.
Well, what I'm wondering is I've heard the expression that when you're going out shooting street, especially, everything's so familiar to you that you feel like you're trying to make something out of nothing. That's one thing that I can imagine myself feeling being new. Like, what is it? We're just walking down the street. It's the same stupid cars and people. Like, I see this every day. How could it be interesting?
How can it be different? How can it?
That's one thing.
That it definitely comes up on occasion. And one of the things I do to before I send them out is to try to get them to look. I always describe the vase, right? The vase, you can either see the two faces or you can see the vase.
Right.
And like, I want you to see the two faces, right? I want you to see the other way around, because like once you start crossing that, once you cross that threshold, the world looks different. It's like you've taken the You've taken the red pill. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, that's an extreme. It's not like
but it's a metaphor.
Kind of like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it is kind of like that. You've crossed over in somebody, and like, how can you do that in one day? Well, not very easy.
No.
Not very easy to do. So when I talk about their challenges being micro, like they're often focused on some small detail, without getting into any kind of craziness about it, but like rather than like the overall, like what was the overall issues that you were having, they'll automatically come back to me and say, I couldn't get the camera to focus. I didn't know how to use this, but like that person, like the bicyclist was all the way over there, you know, like there were these little things like that. Is that making sense?
Yeah, it is. And it's part of, now it's kind of a holistic thing where you shot this picture that you thought was going to be great and it didn't work out. And then you start looking at your pictures that didn't work out as missed opportunities. And that starts to pile up on you from a creative point of view. Like even if you're shooting and like, oh, I missed this. There tends to be negative, and you get this negative feedback loop going. And it's not really the point. Street photographer is definitely by its nature low hit rate. So that's in street. But I'm trying to think, you know, when I go shoot speed skating or something that I'm really kind of unfamiliar with, the struggle is understanding the sport, knowing where the athletes are going to be. Anticipating, and then I go back to that. It's just, what is it that I should be looking for? There's not a sense of what it is I should be looking for when I'm shooting, and you feel like you're disconnected.
Yeah. So even like with street photography, is you understand street photography, so no matter where you are, you can do it. You can sort of drop in.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, when I went to Mexico, I was caught in the awe of the old architecture and the way it's lit and how beautiful the people were and all of that kind of stuff. Like, you know, like your day trip to Times Square, you know, there's all this stuff going on. And it's to calm down and, you know, you use what you have to create it. I don't know. I didn't really finish that thought, but.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to.
No. It wasn't that. It wasn't that. I was not a fully formed thought anyway. It was just a kind of way of, you know, what is it that doesn't derail? You can't derail something that's not there. You know, where do you begin when you're new to something creative like that?
One of the things I disclaim in the class, and this is again my street photographer class, is like you're going to go out for a half an hour, 40 minutes, whatever the time allows. And I said, you are not going to take a good picture.
Yeah.
and you know, like, you know, I get all these long faces, you know, and I was like, don't worry about it. Like, this is not, you know, this is not a race. You know, you're going to go out there and you're going to see stuff and you're going to try to get it, and you're not going to take you might take a good picture. It's possible, but the chances of you getting a good picture in a half an hour after taking 20 minutes, you know, hour and a half class with me is pretty impossible. So that's kind of interesting when you say, like, you know, one of the things I probably should say to them is that, you know, street photography is a low hit rate. You know, it's one of the things I've never really kind of expressed to them, because I think that's part of the frustration that I see is they're going to spend time in a class, even if it's a 3-hour one-off class and like that. They're going to, you know, someone's going to spend time talking to them. They got this equipment, therefore they should be able to grab a good shot and be able to experience things. And they don't have a good experience. And again, I'm broad brushing here, but they don't have a good experience. They don't come out with good photographs, and it's not a relaxing experience. And again, this is just a matter of experience and doing it over and over again, but maybe even not. I mean, I don't know what would make this easier for them to do, but and also, you know, one of the things I end up my class with is like, have fun, right? It's a picture of me taking a photograph out of a car window. It's taking a picture of me through the rear view mirror. I don't know why I used that picture, but it just feels like it was like a fun experience, like looking out the window, photographing all the world, but every now and then taking a fun picture of myself, right? That was kind of my idea, right? So the idea is like, have fun. And to me, having fun is being able to listen to the concert while I'm filming it, right? Like, it's not, you know, it can be a job, sure. Yeah. I can get very tense about it, and I can switch my brain off and on to deal with the situation. Yeah, I got a static shot here, so I don't have to move. I can listen to the music and enjoy it and whatever, right? And so how to get the people to do that? I don't know if it's just experience. You were just mentioning before that, you're not able to think three things at once. Like I couldn't be an air traffic controller. I can't deal with things also, multiple, things going on. And I don't think it's a requirement to be a photographer at all. I don't think you need to have this two brain state or whatever I'm going to call it in order to do that. But again, it's this thing of as a photographer is beginning to get into something, or even if you're just, like I said, maybe in the case of like visiting someplace for the first time or going someplace for the first time and not being able to forgive themselves, like understanding, maybe that's it. Like understanding, oh yeah, I can't do this yet. Like I can't separate my experience from the act of photography. Like I've got to do one or the other. And maybe them thinking I should be able to do both. I should be able to have a good time. I should be able to understand this. So I don't know.
Well, no, it's interesting. Well, again, I think it goes to your familiarity with what it is you're doing. And the more you do, the more you do it, the more confident and so on. And that helps with street photography, I really think is, you have to really want to, for me anyway, you would have to enjoy the act of doing it. You get to see people, you get to, it's the ultimate staring, the ultimate people watching thing, right? Yeah. You get.
But you end up like a Gary Winogrand who photographs more than, looks at. No, I'm not saying that. I mean, that's what he's a one.
So I'm just trying to think of my hit rate. So how many I would shoot like for Stampede here. So I typically, let's just say ballpark, I'll shoot about 400 frames a day. I'll probably get 4 images that are worth putting on Instagram. That's pretty good. It's pretty good for that, I think.
But you come back fulfilled though.
Oh, absolutely. I come back fulfilled even if I would feel bad if I couldn't read the memory stick when I got home, but
forgetting a technical issue, but what you mean is like you've had a good experience altogether. Right?
Yeah,
it's not just the.
I had hope, right? I'm like, that young couple that were doing whatever. Like I got that. I think I got that. And
you can see I'm trying to get you to talk about the experience of being there, though.
Yeah,
not just the photography part. Maybe like you're resisting. I don't know.
No, I don't know. I'm just not thinking in that way. The act of being there, and I do love.
Well, you like being there.
Oh
right?
Yeah.
It's so there's some part of that that's drawn to you. Anyway, I guess I'm trying to get you to get into the shoot mind thing. That's why maybe the Stampede is not a good example because you've been going it for so long. And, and you know it, and I think anybody who was doing what you're doing would perhaps have the same results. But
that's true.
Just
I'm just trying to think. Well, if we're still talking about me, which I like to do. Let's see. I think of another project. When I do last summer when I was taking pictures of those women, the women project, which is that was really cool because I'm in the presence. I'm in the presence of these people that I love, and so there's that. There's the sharing their presence and photographing them. By the way,
right?
That was very loose. It was not me, and not my pointed, strong observations of trying to get something out of the situation. It's like, she's sitting down over here. I'll just get up and take this picture and continue the conversation. That had nothing to do about photography. That's very fulfilling in terms of that. In a lot of ways.
Sorry to interrupt, but this is what I think good documentary photographers can do, right? Is they're not just a fly on the wall, right? Like if you're doing some sort of long story, I'm thinking like Eugene Smith with The Country Doctor shot. That's such a good series.
Yeah.
I can't imagine that he was just a fly on the wall. Like somehow he is in there, or Minimata, where he's actually part of the story itself, right? And so he's able to come at it from being involved in some way, which whatever. and knowing knowing what you're going after and creating the photography. So you're talking about almost the exact same thing.
Yeah, and the different contexts too, right? One's a woman I've known for 40 years. Mm-hmm. One is a woman who, my aunt, that was my last visit with her before she passed, and then my mother, who's in her 80s, and all the feelings that go along with hanging around your mom,
Right.
So that was a good weekend. That was a good experience. And really, my memories of that are not the photographs; it's the being with them. Right.
But that definitely comes out in your photographs too, right?
Yeah.
Like your the merging of the art and the experience is certainly comes out with the photographs that you produce from that. You can really feel it. You know? Whereas someone who's doing, say, that for the first time, you can sense in the pictures that there's not a connection.
Right.
There's I'm just doing this task, right, or something like that. So that's actually a much better. We should have gone more on that example, but I think that's a good way to
start making notes.
We got to start making notes, but this is fine because we're actually trying to do a quicker show tonight because you got to get out. I got to eat dinner, and I'd like to table this for maybe talking with someone else about it. It'd be great to bring in a third person on this, maybe even Gino. We'll get him to talk about this as well, and we'll talk to him about getting him on the show and talking a bunch of stuff.
And I'm really curious about this student experience too. Like when I was asking you.
Okay.
Because I'm not really that much of an instructor. I really like to see, in all of his time teaching at the Santa Fe workshops, what he's seen, and what students grapple with. That's fascinating.
I'd love to be on the show. Yeah, I'll work on it. I'll find a time where we can get to talk to him.
Sure. That'd be great.
I think looking at our clock, you want to get out and shoot, and I want to eat dinner, and so. Where are we looking for you in the world of stuff?
You can find me on Vero and X at W Rosin Photo. I'm on Instagram at Ward Rosin Fine Art. Facebook, you can find me at Ward Rosin Photo. I have my website, which is rosin.ca. That's rosin.ca. And our unofficial sponsor is Ornis Photo.
Sponsor.
Yes, ornis.photo, where I sell. What do I sell? I sell 7 Artisans lenses and lens adapters for Fuji X and Sony E mount. All kinds of
7 Artisans
lenses.
People are coming up with a whole bunch of stuff these days. There's a lot of new.
I
know you're not covering all that stuff, but I've been seeing a lot of new lenses popping up on YouTube with these either TT Artisans or 7 Artisans. I don't know why they have 2 different names. Different companies and they have the same name but similar names. Yeah. How do we make you guys our official sponsor again?
I don't know. What did we say? I don't know.
Figure that out. Anybody got any ideas about how to make Ornis Photo the official sponsor?
I have to give you money, sponsor. I think, is how we make it.
Oh, well, you are, but you're giving your time. Maybe you aren't. Well, I still like the unofficial sponsor.
Yeah, it's a nice running joke. It's good.
Yeah.
What about you, my friend? Where can we find you? And
you can find me sitting on my computer, right on my butt here. No, it's like, mostly on where am I these days? Vero and Flickr is at AM Rosario. Instagram is at AM Rosario Photo. My other site, my other AM Rosario at Instagram was hacked. You can see my photographs there. Just don't follow me there. Yeah, my website is amrosario.com and. Go to Facebook. I've been posting a lot of stuff on Facebook. I know it's old people's territory, but so what? Facebook.com Rosario Photo. And why don't subscribe to our Substack newsletter? I know I said I was going to put out a newsletter last time. I didn't. I'm about to get one up. Coming out. It's going to be coming from Ward actually. So subscribe to our streetshots.substack.com. And leave us a voicemail at speakpipe.com/streetshots. And if you want to support the channel, this is not YouTube. If you want to support the show, buy us a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/Antonio Rosario. And yeah, I've got some. I realized I wanted to put out a newsletter. I haven't. I just want to take your article that we were talking about and put it out there. I'll get that done. Cool. But yeah, I've been getting some Substack people, and I've got some ideas for some stuff I want to write. So yeah,
great.
But other than that, we're in the middle of the sweat July. You want to get out and go to your rodeo street shot stuff, and I got to eat something soon before I get crazy. Okay. So thanks for joining me tonight. I really appreciate it.
Always a pleasure, my friend.
Yeah, and everybody else, look forward to talking to you by the end of July. So have a good next couple of weeks, and good evening to you all.
Good night. What did Marcy make? Rhubarb crisp. Oh my God, it was so good with ice cream.
And this is all with oysters somewhere along the line?
Oh no, there were oysters on the charcuterie board first.
Oh,
because you need that.
Oh, I love oysters. You know how to shuck them?
I have done it, but I could use some practice. We're completely landlocked here, so there isn't much opportunity to see it or eat them fresh.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
You get them out of the can with the cottonseed oil, and you do your best. You put some hot sauce on it, and hey, it's canned the prairies,
oysters,
man.
Unless you cook them, unless you fry them, like deep fry the oysters. I could never eat those things until Elizabeth taught me how to, and then from then on, it was like, I am oyster.
Yeah,
king.
I mean, I know you don't eat that many. It's like one of a bunch of other options. Most of the time, I'm putting on my, an inoffensive cheese.
I could throw a dozen of them.
No, I'm saying fresh oysters. Yes, I'm talking those little boogers that come in the flat tin. You put them on a piece of cheese and you douse it with hot sauce and you hope, right?